The air on Viridia was thick and sweet, like wet grass after a rain. It carried the sounds of huffs, growls, and the low hum of energy fields. In the middle of a wide, flat field stood Kim Jun. He was a young man from Korea, his dark hair pushed back from a forehead dotted with sweat. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast against his ribs. Today was the last test. Today he would become a beast master. Across the field, sitting on a high stone bench, was Lee Mina. She was also from Korea. She had watched Jun train for 3 years. She was good, but Jun had a natural gift. Mina's eyes were sharp, missing nothing. She felt a twist in her stomach. It was not hate. It was the tight feeling of seeing someone reach for a thing you also wanted. Between them lay a wide circle divided into 50 smaller sections. In each section was a creature. There were creatures from all over the galaxy. In one pen, a shatterwolf clicked its crystal teeth. His body looked like moving quartz. In another, a storm wisp, a cloud of purple gas with bright lightning inside, floated silently. There were scaled drakes with 6 legs, furry beasts with too many eyes, and slow-moving things that looked like rocks until they blinked. Jun's task was simple and impossible. He had to connect his mind to each creature. He had to ask them to do something, and they had to do it. All 50 of them, one after the other. He could not use words. He used only his thoughts, his will, and a gentle mental push the guild called the whisper. He took a deep breath. He closed his eyes. He began. First was the Vexen Drake, fast and nervous. In his mind, Jun sent a picture of calm. He sent a feeling of safety. The drake's twitching stopped. It sat down. Jun opened his eyes and pointed to the left. The drake turned and walked left. A soft chime sounded. He moved to the next. A furry balgrin from the northern forests. It was stubborn. Jun poured a feeling of friendly authority into his thoughts. He imagined a command to roll over. After a moment, the balgrin huffed and rolled on its back. The work was slow. It was like holding 50 different songs in his head at once. Each creature needed a different mental touch. The crystal shatterwolf needed clear, sharp thoughts. The gaseous storm wisp needed flowing, emotional feelings. Sweat now ran down Jun's back under his gray uniform. His head began to ache, a dull throb behind his eyes. Mina watched, her own fingers tight on the edge of the stone bench. She saw the slight shake in Jun's hand when he focused on the 10th beast, a skittering insectoid. She saw him close his eyes longer before facing the 15th, a beast that could sense fear. He was good, very good. A part of her hoped he would fail. A bigger part of her knew he would not. At beast number 30. Jun's nose started to bleed. A single red drop fell onto the green grass. He wiped it away with his sleeve and did not stop. The crowd of other students and guild masters, a mix of humans and aliens, was silent. The only sounds were the animals and Jun's quiet footsteps. 45. The pressure in Jun's head was a storm. It felt like his brain was too big for his skull. The 49th beast was a great, bird-like creature with a sharp beak. Peered at him with black, intelligent eyes. Jun sent it a thought picture of flying. He asked it to spread its wings. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then, with a rustle of huge feathers, the wings opened wide, casting a shadow over him. 1 left. The 50th pen held a grimscale. It was a low, wide reptile with armored plates and a tail like a hammer. It was known for its bad temper. Jun's vision swam. The throb in his head was a pounding drum. He knelt before the creature, looking into its small, yellow eyes. He pushed his mind forward. He met a wall of hunger and anger. The grimscale wanted to be left alone. It wanted to bite. Jun pushed harder. He built a mental image of a wall of his will being stronger. He poured every bit of his energy into a single, clear command. Be still. The grimscale hissed. Its muscles tensed. His hammertail lifted, then slowly lowered. It laid its head on the ground. It was still. A loud, clear chime rang across the field. It was over. A roar of applause and mental cheers broke the silence. Guild masters in long blue robes stood up, smiling. June swayed on his knees. The mental pressure vanished, leaving him empty and lightheaded. Mina let out a breath she did not know she was holding. She clapped, her face a careful mask of respect. An older beast master, a Taurian with gentle horns, came forward. He placed a heavy silver medallion around June's neck. It was the mark of a full beast master. Kim June. The Taurian's voice was deep and warm in June's mind. You have done it. You have connected with 50 species. You are one of us now. June touched the cool metal. The pride was a warm fire in his chest, burning away the headache. He had done it. He was the best. Near the back of the viewing area, a man watched. His name was Park Chul. He was human from Korea but older. He wore simple clothes, not a guild robe. He was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. He held a data slate taking notes. He had watched the whole trial with calm, observing eyes. He saw June's skill. He saw the blood, the strain, the incredible effort as the crowd moved to celebrate. Park Chul looked not at June, but at the 50 beasts. He looked at the Shatterwolf, now pacing its pen again. He looked at the Grimscale, already showing its teeth once more. He looked at the Storm Wisp, flickering with restless energy. That he made a final note on his slate. The note read, "Impressive control. Maximum effort applied. Sustainability in question. Bond type. Forced directive." Then he turned and walked away from the cheering, into the quiet of the Viridian evening. His part here was just to observe. For now. The celebration was held in the Grand Hall of the Beastmasters Guild. The hall was a huge open space with a clear dome roof showing Viridia's twin moons. Long tables were filled with food from many worlds. The air smelled of roasted meat and sweet spices. Kim June stood in the center of it all. The silver medallion felt heavy and good around his neck. Guild masters and students from many species came to shake his hand or touch his mind with a brief, congratulatory thought. His head still ached, but it was a good pain, the pain of a battle won. Mina approached him, holding 2 glasses of sparkling juice. She offered him one. "You did well," she said. Her voice was even polite. 50 species. It is a great thing. June took the glass. "Thank you, Mina. It was harder than I thought. The Grimscale. It almost broke my focus." "I saw," Mina said. She took a sip. "But you did not break. That is what matters." She meant it. The tight feeling in her stomach was gone, replaced by a clear goal. She would train harder. She would match him. Across the hall, Park Chul stood near a tall pillar. He was not joining the feast. He was watching. His eyes moved from the celebrating people to the edges of the hall, where the creatures from the trial were now displayed in stronger, shining pens. They were the living proof of June's skill. A silent, restless exhibit. The Taurian guild master, Borlin, raised his hands for quiet. His mental voice, gentle but strong, filled the minds of everyone present. Today, we celebrate a new pinnacle. A human has mastered 50 species. It shows that the path of the mind is open to all who have the will. Let the parade of harmony begin. This was the tradition. The newly crowned Beastmaster would walk through the hall, and the 50 creatures would follow him in a calm, ordered line. It was a display of perfect control and peace. June took a deep breath. He walked to the large arched door at the hall's end. The pens began to open one by one. He focused his mind, sending out a steady, gentle pulse. Follow. Be calm. Be at peace. The creatures stepped out. The Vexenid drake came first, its head low. The furry Balgrin walked behind it. Then the crystal Shatterwolf, its steps making soft, clicking sounds on the stone floor. One by one, they fell into line. The crowd watched in silent wonder. Parents lifted children to see. It was beautiful. A predator walked beside its natural prey. A creature of fire walked near a creature of water. All held in perfect check by June's whispering mind. June walked slowly, his back straight. He could feel the mental links like 50 thin, bright threads. Holding them all made his temples pound, but he smiled. This was his moment. He did not see the small service panel in the floor, near the pen of the storm wisp. It was for the climate systems deep below the hall. At that very moment, on another part of the planet, a small, natural earthquake shook the ground. It was a tiny tremor, common for Viridia, but it was enough. Deep below the hall, a pipe shifted. A surge of geothermal energy shot into the hall's power grid. For less than a second, the lights flickered. The energy fields holding the most dangerous creature, the one kept in a special pen at the very back, wavered and died. The creature was a Scalrack. It looked like a giant, hairless wolf made of dark, twisted muscle and bone. It had no eyes, only a smooth skull with a wide mouth full of teeth. It did not think. It only felt rage, hunger, and a deep, hateful need to break things. The guild called it the unbondable. Its mind was a storm of noise that broke telepathic links. It was kept only to prove a master could hold the line even near such a thing. The Scalrack felt its cage vanish. It did not hesitate. It lunged forward with a roar that was not a sound, but a mental scream of pure fury. The scream hit June first. It was like a white-hot nail driven into his brain. All 50 of his careful mental threads snapped at once. He cried out, grabbing his head, and fell to his knees. The silver medallion clattered on the floor. The beautiful parade shattered into chaos. The Scalrack psychic scream was a weapon. It did not just break June's bonds. It filled the minds of the other 49 creatures with the same blind rage and fear. The calm was gone. The Shatterwolf shrieked and slammed its crystal body into a food table. The Vexenid drakes shrieked and bolted in different directions, knocking people over. The storm wisp crackled with violent purple lightning, striking the dome roof. The Grimscale roared and started smashing its hammertail into the pillars. People screamed. They ran. Tables overturned. It was noise and terror and flashing lights. Mina rushed to June's side. "June, get up. You have to get control." June tried. He pushed his mind out, searching for the threads. But the Scalrack's ongoing mental scream was a constant static, a wall of noise. Every time he tried to grab a thread, it slipped away. Blood was flowing freely from his nose now, dripping onto his uniform. "I can't," he gasped. "It's too loud. It's breaking my thoughts." Security guards ran in with large stunner rifles. Bright blue bolts of energy shot across the hall. They hit a Balgrin. The energy did not calm it. It burned its fur and made it even more angry and scared. The creature turned and charged the guards. Mina tried to focus on one creature, just one, to build a calm point. She chose the bird-like creature. She sent it pictures of the sky of peace. But the Scalrack's noise was everywhere. The bird creature snapped its beak at her and flew into a panic, its wings beating against the dome. The Scalrack itself was moving through the hall like a living shadow. It knocked over pens. It swiped at anything that moved. Its mindless rage was an infection, and every beast in the hall was sick with it. In the middle of the running, screaming crowd, Park Chul did not run. He had moved behind a tipped-over table. He watched. He saw June and Mina failing. He saw the useless stunner bolts. He saw the Scalrack. He looked at the terrified and raged animals. He saw not monsters but scared creatures. His face was serious but not afraid. He closed his data slate and put it in his pocket. He took a long, slow breath. Then he stood up. He did not look at the screaming people or the security guards. He looked at the path between the raging beasts. And he started to walk. The great hall was a storm of noise and movement. The sharp smell of burnt food and ozone filled the air. Blue stunner bolts cut through the chaos, only making the animals more wild. Guards shouted, their voices lost under the roars and shrieks of 50 different creatures. Kim June knelt on the cold stone floor, his hands pressed to the sides of his head. The Scalrack's psychic scream was a drill inside his skull. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to find a quiet point in his mind to start from. Nothing. Only the noise. The pride he felt just minutes before was gone, washed away by a flood of fear and failure. His silver medallion lay on the ground next to him, reflecting the flashing lights. Mina stood over him, her body tense. She was not trying to command the animals anymore. She was trying to protect June. A Vexenid drake, its eyes wide with panic, dashed toward them. Mina threw out her hand, not with a mental command, but a physical shout. HYH, the sound, sharp and sudden, made the creature skitter to the side, away from them. It was not beast mastery. It was an old, simple trick from her grandfather's farm on Earth. But it worked. "June, get up," she yelled, pulling at his arm. "We have to get to the wall. We are in the open." June looked up, his vision blurry. He saw the Shatterwolf slam into a pillar, sending chips of crystal flying. He saw the great bird creature beating its wings against the dome, trapped and terrified. He saw the Scalrack, a dark shape of pure rage, knocking over a heavy statue as if it were made of paper. His heart sank. This was his fault. This was his parade, his moment. And then he saw something else. Something that made no sense. A man was walking. Not running, not hiding. Walking. It was Park Chul, the quiet human observer. He had stepped out from behind an overturned table. He was not looking at the exits. He was not looking for a weapon. He was walking directly into the widest, most dangerous part of the hall. He moved with a calm, steady pace, as if he were crossing a park on a quiet afternoon. His hands were at his sides, relaxed. His face showed no expression at all. No fear, no anger, no focus. It was empty. "What is he doing?" Mina whispered, her grip tightening on June's arm. June's mind, broken by the psychic storm, could not understand it. The man was going to die. He was walking straight toward the Shatterwolf, which was now turning, its crystal teeth snapping at the air. He was heading into the path of the panicked Balgrin. He was on a direct line toward the source of all the chaos, the Scalrack. "Is he crazy?" June gasped. A fresh wave of pain from the Scalrack's scream made him wince. "He has no shield. No weapon." They watched, frozen, as Park Chul took another step, then another. His simple clothes, a brown jacket and dark pants, made him look like a plain shadow moving through the colorful, violent chaos. He did not look at the Shatterwolf. He did not look at the people screaming at him to get down. He just walked. The Shatterwolf noticed him. It lowered its crystal head, a growl vibrating from its body. It was a predator, and a moving target was a trigger. Coiled its legs to pounce. June knew what would happen next. The Shatterwolf would drive its crystalline spikes right through the man's chest. He wanted to shout a warning, but his throat was tight. Park Chul did not change his speed. He did not turn. He was going to walk right past it. "Idiot!" June finally found his voice, forcing the word out. "You'll be torn apart. Stop." His shout was lost in the noise. Park Chul did not hear him, or he did not care. The Shatterwolf lunged. Its body was a blur of sharp, reflected light. Mina turned her head away. But the impact never came. June stared. The Shatterwolf had not attacked. It had skidded to a halt, its crystal claws scraping the stone, stopping less than an arm's length from Park Chul. The man had not even flinched. He did not look at the beast. He simply continued his next step, walking past it as if it were a stone or a tree. The Shatterwolf did not move. It stood utterly still. Then it did something June had never seen. It let out a soft, confused whine, like a puppy. It lowered its whole body, its belly touching the floor. It laid its sharp, glittering head on its claws. It was submitting. Park Chul was already past it. He walked on. June's mouth hung open. The pain in his head was forgotten. "How?" he breathed. Mina said nothing. Her eyes were wide, locked on the walking man. Next was a pair of Vexenid drakes, hissing and circling each other in a fight. Park Chul walked directly between them. The drakes stopped fighting. They sniffed the air, their forked tongues flicking out. They backed away from him, creating a clear path. Their hisses softened into puzzled chirps. It was impossible. He was not using the whisper. June, even through his broken senses, would have felt the pulse of telepathic energy. There was nothing, no mental command at all. It was as if the man was invisible, or made of something the animals did not want to touch. Step by step, Park Chul moved deeper into the storm. The creatures did not obey him. They simply moved aside. They calmed. They watched him pass. The storm wisp, which had been throwing lightning, softened to a gentle glow and floated higher. Out of his way, he was not heading for an exit. He was walking a straight line toward the center of the hall, toward the source of the screaming, breaking, roaring chaos, toward the skull rack. June felt a cold chill that had nothing to do with pain. He finally understood the man's path. He was not trying to escape. He was walking right toward the monster that had broken a master of 50 species. A strange quiet began to spread in the hall. It was not the quiet of peace. It was the quiet of shock. The screams of people turned into whispers. The roars of the beasts turned into low whines and confused huffs. The only clear sound was the steady, calm tap of Park Chul's shoes on the stone floor. He walked. He did not hurry. Kim Jun watched, his mind empty of everything but disbelief. He saw the great bird creature, which had been beating itself against the dome, land softly on a broken pillar. It folded its wings and tucked its head, watching the walking man with one bright eye. He saw the furry Balgrin, its fur still smoking from a stunner bolt, sit down heavily and lick its paw. Its anger gone. It was like watching a stone drop into a churning pond. The ripples moved out from Park Chul, and where they passed, the chaos simply stopped. The creatures were not hypnotized. They were not under a new command. June, a master trained to see the threads of control, saw none. Instead, he saw recognition. It was in the way the Shatterwolf had laid its head down. It was in the way the Vexenid drakes had sniffed the air and backed away. It was as if the animals saw something in the man they knew, deep in their bones. Something older than fear. Park Chul did not look at them. His eyes were fixed ahead, on the dark shape at the end of the hall. The skull rack. The man's face was still calm. He breathed in slowly through his nose and out through his mouth. His shoulders were not stiff with readiness for a fight. They were relaxed but not loose. There was an authority in his posture, but it was not the sharp, demanding authority of a master. It was the quiet, sure authority of a parent, or a mountain. He walked past the grimscale. The armored reptile had been smashing its tail against a support beam. Now it stopped. It turned its heavy head and watched Park Chul pass. His yellow eyes blinked. It did not attack. It let out a hot, steaming breath and settled onto its belly, its dangerous tail going still. Lee Mina helped June to his feet. They did not speak. They just stood together, leaning on each other, and watched the impossible walk. Park Chul was now in the very center of the hall. The space around him was clear. All around the edges, the other creatures had drawn back. They formed a rough circle, watching. The guards had lowered their weapons, their mouths open. The Taurian guild master, Borlin, stood with his hands clasped, his horned head tilted in deep, confused thought. Only one creature was not calm. The Skalrak that felt the change in the hall, felt the fear melt away. This made it even angrier. Rage was the only thing it knew. It turned from the wall it was scarring and faced the source of the new quiet that it saw. Park Chul. A low, vibrating growl came from its chest. It was a sound you felt in your teeth. It dropped its head, its eyeless skull pointing at the man. Its muscles, like twisted cables, coiled tight. Strings of thick saliva dripped from its open mouth, sizzling where they hit the stone. Park Chul did not stop walking. He did not change his speed. He was now close, too close, 20 steps away. 15. June's breath caught in his throat. This was suicide. The Skalrak was not a creature that recognized anything but threat and food. It would leap. It would tear the man apart. The strange calm would break, and the chaos would return, worse than before. He wanted to shout, to tell the man to run, but the words were frozen inside him. 10 steps. The Skalrak roared again. This time it was a physical and mental blast of hate. June and Mina flinched, the noise scraping against their minds. But Park Chul only blinked. He kept walking 0.5 steps. The Scalrack charge.it was fast, a blur of dark motion. Its claws scratched deep grooves in the stone floor. Its mouth opened wide, ready to bite. Park Chul stopped walking, that he did not run. He did not raise his hands to fight. He simply stood still. He planted his feet firmly on the ground. He looked directly at the charging monster. He did not glare. He did not show fear. He just looked. And then he did the smallest thing. As the Scalrack leaped into the air, its shadow falling over him, Park Chul took one final, slow breath and let it out. His chest fell. All the tension seemed to leave his body at once. He did not make himself small. He did not make himself big. He just became present, solid, like a tree rooted in the earth. The Scalrack landed in front of him, not on him. The impact shook the floor. This hot, rank breath washed over Park Chul's face. Its teeth were inches from his throat. It did not close its mouth. It stood there, trembling. Its growl died in its throat, becoming a choked, confused rumble. It tilted its smooth head, as if trying to see the man with senses it did not have. It sniffed the air violently. Park Chul did not move. He held its non-gaze. The silence in the hall was now complete. No one breathed. The Scalrack took a half-step back. The rage in its body seemed to drain away, replaced by something else. Something like memory. It made a soft, questioning sound. A sound no one in the guild had ever heard it make. It was the sound of a lost thing that has suddenly found a landmark. Then, slowly, as if the movement was very heavy, the Scalrack lowered its whole body. It laid its terrible head on the floor, right between Park Chul's feet, closed its mouth. It let out one long, tired sigh, and it was still. Park Chul looked down at the creature. For the first time, his expression changed. It was not a smile of victory. It was a small, sad look of understanding. He gave a single, slow nod. Then he looked up. He looked around the silent hall at all the watching creatures and all the stunned people. His eyes met June's for just a second. Then he turned and began to walk back the way he came, leaving the tamed Scalrack resting on the floor behind him. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was the gentle hum of the climate system and the soft, sleeping breath of the Scalrack. Park Chul walked back through the hall with the same steady pace. The circle of creatures watched him pass, their heads turning to follow him. None made a sound. The Shatterwolf remained on its belly. The Storm Wisp glowed a quiet, steady blue. It was as if they were all holding their breath. Kim Jun felt like the world had been turned upside down. The pain in his head was gone, but his mind was spinning. He stared at the Scalrack, that mountain of fury, now lying like a tired dog at the feet of a man who had not said a single word. The silver medallion on the floor beside him felt cold and meaningless. He had used every bit of his strength, his special gift, to command these creatures. This man had just walked. He had simply existed, and they had obeyed something deeper than a command. Lee Mina was the first to break the silence. She let go of June's arm and took a step forward. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried in the quiet hall. How? It was the question in everyone's mind. Hundreds of eyes turned from the beasts to Park Chul. Park Chul stopped walking. He was near the center of the hall again. He looked at Mina, then at the gathered guild masters. His face was tired now. It was not the tiredness from a hard fight, but the tiredness of someone who has had to explain something simple many, many times. The Taurian guild master, Borlin, stepped forward. His mental voice was gentle, filled with wonder and confusion. Visitor Park Chul. What was that? What technique did you use? We felt no psychic emission, no energy signature. Park Chul was quiet for a few seconds. He looked at the Scalrack, then at the other animals. He finally spoke, his voice calm and low. It was no technique. A murmur went through the crowd. June shook his head. That is impossible, he said, his own voice rough. They obeyed you. All of them. You stopped the Scalrack. You must have done something. Park Chul turned his gaze to June. They did not obey me, he said. They recognized me. Recognized what? Asked Mina. They are from 50 different worlds. They have never seen you before. Not me, Park Chul said. He gestured vaguely at himself. They recognized the pattern, the situation. He walked over to where a food table had been knocked over. A large, round fruit from Earth, called a watermelon, had rolled onto the floor. He picked it up. He held it in his hands. You, he said, looking at June and the other beast masters. You use your minds like this. He raised the fruit high above his head, his muscles tight, holding it up with clear effort. You shout into their thoughts. You push your will. You hold it up and you do not let it fall. It is impressive. It takes great strength. He was quiet for a moment. But what happens when your arms get tired? He opened his hands. The watermelon fell. It hit the stone floor with a loud, wet crack. Red flesh and black seeds splattered everywhere. Everyone flinched at the sound. It breaks, Park Chul said softly, looking at the mess. He then walked to another part of the floor. There was a large, flat stone tile loose from the fighting. He put his foot on one edge of it and pressed down. The other end of the stone tile lifted into the air. I did not do that, he said. I did not lift the stone. I understood the stone. I used the leverage. I asked it to lift, and it did. He took his foot away. The stone tile settled back down. That is what you saw, he said, looking around. I did not command the animals. I did not hold them up. I asked them to be calm, and they understood the request. June felt frustration bubble up inside him. A request? You asked the Skalrak? That thing does not understand requests. It only knows how to destroy. Park Chul looked at him. For the first time, there was a hint of something in his eyes. Not anger, pity. You are wrong, he said. It knows more. On every world with life there are rules. Older than thinking. There is predator and prey. There is fear. And there is the thing that has no fear. He began to walk toward the Skalrak again. People moved back, afraid. But Park Chul just walked up to the sleeping monster and stood beside its huge head. You are afraid of it, he said. Not just to June, but to the whole guild. Your fear is a shout in your mind. It shouts danger, enemy, run or fight. The creature hears that shout. It answers with its own shout. Your telepathy makes the shout louder. He placed a hand very gently on the Skalrak's rough, warm head. The creature did not stir. I was not afraid. My mind was quiet, so it got quiet too. It listened, and then it remembered. Remembered what? Borland asked, his mental voice full of awe. Park Chul looked out at the other creatures. On Earth, long before cities or tools humans walked. We were not the strongest, not the fastest, but we walked everywhere. We walked into the territories of great cats, and bears and wolves. We did not run. We did not always fight. We stood our ground. We looked them in the eye. We showed we were not food, and we were not a threat that would run away. We became part of the landscape, something to be careful around, something familiar. He took his hand from the Skalrak. This is not a magic. It is an old, old understanding, written in the body, in the breath, in the way you stand. Your way, he said, nodding to June's medallion on the floor, is like learning a new, complicated language for every person you meet. My way is speaking the first word that every creature knows. He looked at the shattered watermelon on the floor. Your way breaks, he said. My way just is. The sun rose over the misty plains of Viridia. The light was soft and gold, painting the grass in long shadows. The damaged hall was being repaired, but out here, the world was quiet and new. Kim June stood at the edge of the training field. Lee Mina stood next to him. They wore simple clothes, not their guild uniforms. Park Chul stood a few steps ahead of them, his hands in his pockets. He was looking at the horizon, not at the two creatures they had brought with them. Point one was the Vexen ID Drake, paced nervously, its scales shimmering. The other was the Skalrak. It sat on its haunches a good distance away, a dark, quiet mountain. Guild members watched from far behind the safety fence, but June tried to ignore them. He was not here to perform. Today, you do nothing with your mind, Park Chul said, his voice calm in the morning air. You only watch. You only breathe. June frowned. But how do we connect if we do not use the whisper? You are not connecting to them, Park Chul said. You are sharing space with them. It is different. First, you must be still. Not just your body. Your thoughts. He took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. Follow my breathing. In and out. Felt silly. June glanced at Mina. She had already closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling slowly. June sighed and closed his own eyes. He tried to quiet the busy thoughts in his head. It was hard. He thought about his failure, about the medallion he had left in his room, about what people were saying. Your mind is loud, Park Chul observed. The drake hears it. It makes him nervous. Let the thoughts pass like clouds. Do not grab them. June tried. Took many minutes. But slowly, the storm in his mind began to settle. He heard the wind in the grass. He heard the distant call of a native bird. He felt the sun on his skin. He was just a person, standing on a planet, breathing. Good, Park Chul whispered. Now open your eyes. Look at the drake. Do not look at it. Just let it be in your vision. June opened his eyes. The Vexenid drake had stopped pacing. It was looking at him. Its head was cocked. Now, Park Chul said, you want it to come closer. Do not tell it. Do not push a picture. Simply want it in your body. Feel the want like a gentle pull in your chest. Take a slow step back. June felt foolish. This was not how it was done. But he did it. He felt a simple, calm desire for the creature to approach. He took one slow step backwards, opening the space between them. The drake's eyes widened. Took one hesitant step forward. Then another. It was not being compelled. It was curious. It walked until it was an arm's length from June. It sniffed the air. Now lower your energy, Park Chul guided. Slow your breath again. Look at the ground beside you, not into its eyes. June looked down at the grass by his feet. He softened his shoulders. He let himself be uninteresting, unthreatening, but still solid, present. The drake let out a soft chirp. Then, it moved past him and lay down in the spot of sun where June had been standing. It curled up, content that a feeling bloomed in June's chest, warm and quiet. It was not the thrill of command. It was the satisfaction of being understood without a single word. You see, Park Chul said. You made a suggestion. It agreed. That is the first conversation. He turned to Mina. Your turn. The Scalrack. Mina's eyes grew a little wide, but she nodded. She faced the huge creature. It watched her, motionless. Do not see the monster, Park Chul told her. See the animal. It is big. It is strong. It is also here in the sun, breathing the same air as you. You are both just here. Acknowledge it. A simple nod. Mina, her body tight with fear, gave a stiff, small nod of her head toward the Scalrack. Nothing happened. Again, Park Chul said softly. But mean it. You are saying, I see you. That is all. Mina took a deeper breath. She looked at the creature, really looked at it. Not as a test, but as another living thing. She nodded again, slower. The Scalrack blinked. It shifted its weight. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it dipped its massive head in return. Acknowledgement. A smile broke across Mina's face. It was small, but real. Park Chul walked over and stood between June and the napping drake. He looked out at the plains. This is not better than what you learned. It is older. It works when you are tired, when you are hurt, when your technology fails. It works because it is not about you having power. It is about you belonging to the same world. He gestured to the Scalrack. It is not a pet. It will not fetch. It may choose to leave tomorrow. But today it is a neighbor. And neighbors watch out for each other. As if it heard him, the Scalrack stood. It did not move toward them. Instead, it turned and faced the wide plain, its head held high. It was not guarding them obediently. It was simply sharing its watch. It was saying, "I am here too." June looked from the peaceful drake at his feet to the vast, quiet creature on the watch. He thought of the 50 threads of force always threatening to snap. He thought of the single, solid ground he now stood on. He pulled the silver medallion from his pocket. He held it in his open palm for a moment, feeling its weight. Then he crouched down and placed it gently on the grass. It was not his anymore. He stood up, feeling lighter. Park Chul saw him do it. He said nothing. He just gave that same small, understanding nod. The wind picked up, rustling the grass. The Skalrak's ears twitched at a sound only it could hear. The drake slept on in the sun. June and Mina stood beside the quiet man from Earth, learning a new way to be in a very old universe. They were not masters. Not today. They were just students of the quiet. And for now, that was enough. The silence in the hall changed. Before, it was the silence of shock. Now, it was the silence of people thinking very hard. Kim June looked at the broken watermelon on the floor. The red juice looked like blood. He looked at his silver medallion, still lying where it had fallen. It no longer shone with pride. It looked like a piece of scrap metal. He had spent his life training his mind to be a loud, strong voice. Park Chul said he had only been shouting. And when the shout broke, everything fell apart. Lee Mina was looking at the Skalrak. The monster was still asleep, its sides rising and falling slowly. She had been taught it was a thing of pure rage, a broken mind. But now it looked peaceful. She thought of Park Chul's quiet walk. He had not conquered the beast. He had met it, and it had chosen to rest. Guild Master Borland stepped closer to Park Chul. His hooves clicked softly on the stone. "This first word," he said, his mental voice careful. "This way of being that is written in the body. Can it be taught?" All the beast masters and students leaned forward. This was the question. Was it a magic trick only one man could do? Or was it something real? Park Chul thought for a moment. He looked at the hopeful, confused faces around him. He looked at June's defeated posture and Mina's sharp, curious eyes. "It can be shown," he said finally. "But it is not learned like a skill. It is remembered. It is like breathing. You are always doing it, but you do not think about it. You have just forgotten how to do it on purpose." He walked over to June. "Pick up your medallion," he said. June hesitated, then bent down. The metal was cold in his hand. It felt heavy. "Do you feel strong when you wear it?" Park Chul asked. "Yes," June said. "It means I am a master. And without it?" June did not know what to say. Without it, after today, he felt like nothing. Park Chul seemed to understand. "Your strength is in the symbol, in the title. Your authority is something you put on, like a coat." He tapped his own chest. "My authority is in my bones. It does not come from a guild. It comes from being a human who is alive. The animals know the difference. They feel your authority is a temporary thing, an act. They feel mine is a fact, like the sun rising." He turned to face the hall. "You call us a low-affinity species. You say humans cannot bond. You are wrong. We bonded with every creature on our world so deeply that we never needed to learn a new language for it. We spoke the old one, the one of shared space, of mutual respect, not master and pet, not commander and soldier, but neighbors, sometimes dangerous neighbors, but neighbors who know the rules." An older beast master, a woman with silver hair, spoke up. "But we have studied earth fauna. You have shepherds, riders, trainers." Park Chul almost smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "You studied what we became, not what we were. A shepherd does not tell his dog what to do with his mind. He and the dog are partners on the same job. They understand each other with a look, a whistle, a gesture. It is a conversation. What you do," he said, gesturing to the pens, "is a monologue. You speak. They must listen. There is no conversation." He walked toward the pen that held the Vexenid drakes. The two creatures were now calm, watching him. He stopped outside the energy field. He did not try to touch their minds. He just looked at them. He tilted his head a little. He raised his hand, palm open and flat, and moved it slowly down toward the ground. The drakes watched his hand. Then, as one, they sat down. "I did not tell them to sit," Park Chul said. "I suggested it. I showed them my intention. They agreed. It was a choice." June felt a strange spark in his chest. It was not understanding yet, but it was the beginning of a question. "How?" he asked again, but this time his voice was softer. "How do you show an intention without the whisper?" Park Chul looked at him. "With your whole self. Your breath, your posture, your energy. You stop trying to speak into their minds. You speak with your body. You must stop seeing them as problems to be controlled. You must see them as animals to be met. You must stop being a beast master." He let the words hang in the air. "And start being a beast's neighbor." Borland's slow, deep thought reached everyone. "This changes everything. Our guild, our teachings." "It does not have to change your guild," Park Chul said. "It can add to it. Your way works, until it doesn't. My way works when there is nothing else. No technology, no psychic strength. Just a person and an animal and the ground between them." He looked at the sleeping Skalrak. "It works even then." He walked back to the center of the hall. He seemed older now, tired from explaining. "I will stay for a time. I will show you the quiet way. Not so you can be better masters, but so you can build better bonds. So your parades do not end in broken fruit." He looked at June and Mina. "You are talented. You have strong minds. But you are trying to hold up the world with your arms. Let me show you how to use a lever." June looked down at the medallion in his hand. He did not put it back on. He closed his fingers around it. The metal grew warm from his skin. He looked at Park Chul, then at the calm, watchful eyes of the 50 species around the hall. For the first time, he didn't see a collection of challenges to be conquered. He saw a room full of neighbors he had never known how to say hello to. He gave a slow, small nod.